I'm James, and I will be your host and guide for today's stress reset class. Welcome to CommunityFIT. We're so happy to have you join the community. So we have a question going on over in the chat, something to be thinking about. The question of the day is, where do you notice tension in your body as you get stressed? And when you notice that tension, what are your strategies to sort of work through it, work with it, metabolize it, make sense out of it, and cycle through the tension cycle, because that's what it is. For a moment at the top of the class, I want to talk about tension. We talked kind of a little bit about what stress was the other day, but tension is directly related to stress. When we say things like my neck is tense, my hips are tense, my jaw is tense, our default is to assume, to consider that we have done something wrong or that we are abusing or misusing our bodies somehow. While that might be true in some instances, more likely you're just stressed. More than likely your body is perceiving there is some version of threat around you, and that is an unconscious symptomization. It's sort of like very few of us, well, not very few of us, but a percentage of us don't even realize we're stressed. We just notice tension in our bodies. And so I want you to think that when you feel tension, it is your body telling you. It is what I call interpersonal communication. It is your body communicating with you that there is stress going on. And when you hear that, rather than defaulting to, oh, my neck problem, or my neck is hurting me again, my hips are hurting me again, which sort of ... sounds like my neck is doing me wrong. My hips are doing me wrong. My jaw, they're doing their job. They're letting you know something is off. And so it's your job as a whole human being to sort of put things on pause and figure out, well, how can I recenter my experience around sort of a feel-good thing? And so tension is really just your muscles, your body contracting and holding, bracing for the inevitable threat to happen. And oftentimes that threat never happens because we live in a modern world. If we lived in villages and tribes still, the lion we sense would eventually walk into the village square. We would all be afraid. And then when it leaves, we would all relax. Well, anymore, when we're sitting at desks, when we're driving our cars, when we're sitting at home, in modern life, those threats are often things that are out of our control or will never actually materialize, or really just coming from expectations or old stories or a pandemic that is out there somewhere. And it's not that these things aren't real threats. It's just there's not really anything to be done. They're not going to pass in the moment in the way that our bodies assume they will. So we've got to figure out some strategies to help alleviate tension. This week has been dedicated a lot to hip and pelvic work, especially through Move Lab and some of the other stuff we've been playing with. So we're going to have a lot about that. We're going to have some diaphragm stuff. As mentioned, there was the question of the day, and we had some neck and shoulder tension questions. We're going to be getting into that a lot next week. So if you're interested in back work, neck work, shoulder tension-y work, stay tuned. Next week in Move Lab and in Stress Reset, we're really going to tackle that area of the body. But just acknowledge that tension is your body, your muscle system, your bones doing the thing that they're supposed to do, letting you know that you are perceiving threat and you're probably going to need to run or fight it off at some point. Well, if it's taxes, you can't run from them, you can't fight it off. You got to learn how to metabolize that tension and that stress. So let's go ahead and create some strategies around that. We're going to be approaching some TRE work that we'll get into, some gut reset work that I really like, and just some general stress stuff that we're going to revisit from the other day. So let's continue with our breath work that we started and get another dose of that so that it kind of lives in us a little bit more. And I advocate that you pick a few things from today that really, really resonate with you and continue to play and practice with them. So the breath work we've kind of chosen to play with this week, I've chosen for you to play with this week, is physiological sigh. And to revisit that, it's an inhale and a second inhale and an exhale. That's two inhalations. Inhale, inhale. Single, prolonged, satisfied, lingering exhalation. Inhale, inhale. Three more. Last couple. One more. Bring your hands together, get them warmed up. Again, if you don't have warmed up hands, you can always use a prop, a heated blanket, a heated massage tool of some sort. And you're going to place it either on the front of your throat or somewhere that feels good. For me today, I'm automatically going to sort of belly area. I can feel that this is the area for me that needs to be touched today. So this is where I'm going. You make your choice. Maybe it's your neck, maybe it's your jaw, maybe it's your chest or here or just your hands. Just be there. Breathe into wherever you're touching. Like the warm air goes right into the warm hands. One more. From there, a little bit of a jaw massage. Right into some face taps. Go right into the ears and do a little gentle pinch of the ears, pulling them out and pulling them backwards. This also helps to relieve some jaw tension. It's just a little gentle tug outwards and backwards. You may even feel some draining going down in your throat, especially if you have any sort of allergies or stuffiness from winds and fires and everything else going on here in California or wherever you're at. And then relax. Take your right hand onto your left arm and just do a little stroking. We're just priming our nervous system for some of the work we're going to be doing. And the other side. And then just a little gentle rocking side to side. I call this one seaweed spine, but just whatever image comes up. Maybe it's willow trees moving in the wind, grass, bamboo, sea kelp, seaweed. It's my image. Whatever it is you'd like. Now, normally I would go into some shaking, and we're going to go into that in a moment. But here's what I want us to do first. You're just going to take your two hands and you're going to ball them up into fists, and you're going to squeeze your fists as hard as you can. Squeeze, 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 and then relax. And maybe you even just set your hands somewhere flat, whether it's on the floor or here, and just for a moment, imagine your hands getting longer, your hands getting wider, your hands getting softer. And then do that again. Squeeze, 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 lots and lots of tension. Squeeze, 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 and then relax and widen. You know those stress balls that we play with? That's sort of the theory behind them. There's some tactile stuff, but it's also this contract and this release. Contract, release. You don't need a stress ball in order to be able to do that. All you've got to do is squeeze, squeeze, squeeze your hands and then release. Now, some people, including me, like to squeeze, 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 and then shake. Squeeze, 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 and then shake. Because here's a little tension tip for you, and this comes from my work with myofascial release. Often when we experience some sort of discomfort in the body, especially like overly contracted stuff, we automatically default to how do I fix this? And our fix is usually the opposite of what we're experiencing. So if I'm feeling tense, how do I relax? Well, how many times has the thought of just relax really helped? Often it's sort of, it's triggery. It often makes us more tense because we can't just relax. A myofascial tip for you is go more into the thing that you're feeling in order to rebound out of the experience. So if you're feeling tense and tight, if you're feeling tension in your hips, tension in your neck, tension in your breath, tension in your body, go more into that. Squeeze it more. So now maybe it's not just your hands, maybe it's your whole body. Squeeze, 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 squeeze your face. And then relax. Squeeze, 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 and then relax. Now you can just do the relax thing and sort of experience that. Sometimes it's nice to feel the spectrum. What does it feel like to be the proverbial black to the white, or the white to the black? And is there a comfortable gray area? Meaning, what does it feel like to go more into the contraction or more into the release, or whatever the thing is you're currently feeling? Most of us with tension, it's contraction. Go more into the contraction in order to understand what release would even feel like. Because most of us, especially with chronic or persistent tension, don't even remember what lack of tension feels like. So amping it up, turning the volume up on that tension so that you can release and relax is really, really valuable. Now, you can just do the release and relax, or you can squeeze, 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 and shake. Squeeze, 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 and seaweed spine. And that's sort of the concept behind where we're going to go right now with the TRE work. So go ahead and lie all the way down. TRE work is tension and trauma release exercises. So there are a series of TRE exercises all the way from the feet all the way up through the body. The one I'm going to give you, the two that I'm going to give you today, are all about inviting in what's called the therapeutic tremor, or your body's way of naturally shaking on its own. I'm going to caveat, I'm going to put a little asterisk by this, that what we're doing, it could not be more simple. Simple is very rarely easy. And this is difficult work, simple but difficult work, not muscularly, not effort-wise, but emotionally, because you're going to start to shake and most of you are going to go, I don't like this, or this is weird. Why am I shaking? It's because you're holding tension and you haven't realized how much tension you're holding. So here we go. Lie all the way down. Bring the soles of your feet together. Let your arms casually rest out to the side. I have all 10 toes touching all 10 toes. I have my heels touching my heels, the outside edges of my feet touching the outside edges. My knees are not all the way relaxed open, but they're not contracted and kept. They're somewhere in between up and down, comfortably in the middle. I squeeze all of my foot to the other foot, toes, arches, heels, everything. Squeeze. I tuck my pelvis by squeezing. So this is like squeezing the fists, right? I'm squeezing, squeezing, squeezing. Then I start to push my feet down and I do a little bridge so that it doesn't have to be all the way up, but it does have to be bridged. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Feet are pushing together. Feet are pushing down. Squeezing, butt is squeezing, squeezing, squeezing. And I'm holding for 45 seconds to 1 minute. I'm just going to be here, breathing, holding, squeezing. Push the little toes together and down. Push the heels together and down. Holding. "45 seconds to a minute. We're almost at 45. Almost there. Slowly coming down, releasing, holding. Before you do anything else, bring your knees 1 inch together, 2 inches together, inch by inch together until you feel your legs start to tremble, shake, vibrate. however it is you want to describe it. This is the beginnings of what is called a therapeutic tremor. You have created tension and contraction in your body, and your nervous system is primed to squeeze, and now you're telling it not to squeeze anymore, but you're doing it subtly. So the nervous system is having to recalibrate itself. It's going, well, are we bracing or are we not bracing? What is the thing we want to do here? And so it's reconfiguring. Now, I practice therapeutic tremor. Many of you, if you've been in stress reset or know my work, you probably do too. If you're like, my legs aren't shaking, go back into that practice. I'm going to do a second round here in a moment, but for me, I'm going to be selfish today, and I'm going to enjoy the tremor. Just to model for you that this is nothing to worry about. This is not weird. This is something your body does naturally. Just letting it shake. I'm not doing this on purpose. I'm not making this happen. You can feel the tremor kind of traveling up a little bit, and now it's waning. So for me, I'm going to reset, squeeze, push down to go up, holding, and squeezing. I can even feel my legs tremoring here. They want to let go, they want to release. And then all the way back down, inch by inch. Yeah, now we got a real good shake. If at any point you would like the shaking to stop, straighten out one leg, flex the foot flat, and then the second leg, flex the foot flat. From there, I'm going to ground my feet. I'm going to bring my knees together, and I'm going to widen my feet wider than I am. So I'm just doing the opposite of what I did initially. Feet are wide, knees are together. Arms are down. My feet push down into the floor. All of my toes, heels, foot. I squeeze my knees together. I squeeze my glutes, and I bridge up. So now instead of squeezing feet and opening up into what's called an external rotation, we are now in an internal rotation. Knees are squeezing towards each other. Butt cheeks are squeezing. Again, it's not anatomically correct. It is purposefully driving the squeeze. It's like squeezing my hands or squeezing my body to eventually know what release feels like. Squeezing, squeezing. 45 seconds to a minute. All the way down. Now, in order to elicit the tremor here, I walk my feet together. Knees and feet are together. I open up my knees 1 inch at a time until I reach a point where there might be a little tremor. So far for me, there's no tremor here. There we go. Very subtle today. So you can see it doesn't have to be big and robust. It's just whatever is. Now you can stay in one of these two positions, the first or the second, for 5 minutes and let your body tremor. Or you can follow me into another round of that last one. Knees together, just so we have it in the body. Squeeze, squeeze, lift. I like a sighing breath here. Whatever works for you. And all the way back down. Knees and feet together, inch by inch. A little more tremor here this time. Just allowing that tremor to happen. Now, for the sake of class, I'm going to cut this short. Again, you may want to allow the tremor to continue for a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, until it wants to stop. But for today, I'm going to slide one leg straight, hard flex the foot, the other leg straight, hard flex the foot, and the tremor has stopped. From there, floppy fish, next iteration of this. Toes point left and right, left and right, left and right. And I'm just going to allow my body to move, sort of rocking the feet like unison windshield wipers, right and left, and letting the whole body be jiggled, wiggled, and moved. Then hold, flex the feet, point the feet, flex the feet, point the feet, flex and point, and let your body be jiggled. This requires you to kind of dig your heels into the floor and just yielding and noticing, are my ribs jiggling? Is my neck and shoulders allowed to jiggle here? We've created all that tension, and now we're just asking for the opposite of tension. I can go back to side, or a point and a flex, or sort of all of them, which is kind of circular in nature. And then relax and just be here for a moment. Take a couple of breaths. One more of those. Comfortably bend your knees. We had some questions or the idea of holding tension in the diaphragm area. So I'm going to have my right hand below my left hand on top of my stomach. I'm then going to move it up and under. I'm going to sit up so you can see this. I'm going to move those hands kind of up or over to the left and underneath the ribs, just slightly. So gently pushing down over to the left and kind of up and underneath the ribs a bit. And then I'm just going to take an inhale toward my hands. Exhale, relax, and have my hands gently push underneath the ribs. Inhale toward my hands. Exhale, hands go gently up and underneath the ribs. Then relax for a moment. Just let your arms hang to the side and notice any differences you feel between right and left sides. The sides you touched and the sides you did not. Then do the same thing on the other side. I like having the opposite arm on the bottom. It just works easier for me, but you choose. Goes up and underneath. I inhale toward that hand. Exhale. Inhale. You don't have to press hard. One more. Take both hands, one on top of the other. Go to the left, down towards the pelvis, over towards the right and up, like you're drawing a circle on your own belly. Then both hands are going to find their way to the low rib. We swipe from the right low rib to the left low ribs, back to the right low ribs. So just going back and forth. Gently pushing into the ribs. If I'm on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm pushing into my ribs at about maybe a 3 or a 4. Then stopping in the middle, taking some fingers and just tapping on the chest bone. I can use one hand or two, going all the way up and down. While you're at it, just imagine your sit bones, the pelvic bones, getting wider, the pelvis getting wider, the hip joints getting wider, the pubic bone getting wider. And then relax, release. Drop your knees to one side. Go ahead and sit all the way up. And do a little check-in. Maybe you want to do a little side-to-side rock. Maybe you want to do a little breathing. But when you find yourself centered, when you're ready, sit on something firm. Now, whether that is the floor or a chair, whatever works best for you. You don't have to sit like this. Sit wherever works best for you. Then feel where your two sit bones are. Your sit bones are the right butt cheek bone and the left butt cheek bone. And imagine they get wider and further away from each other. Imagine your ribs get wider and your belly gets a little softer. The chest bone you were just tapping on drops down just a little bit more. Maybe a good quote here to consider is dignified backline, soft front line. Dignified backline doesn't have to be erect, doesn't have to be tight, just dignified. Front line, no need to contract your belly, no need to hold in your abs, no need to tighten up your chest, just breathe. Notice what you notice. Think about what is one or two things that I'm going to take with me today. Is it a breathing thing? Is it some of the nervous system warm-ups? Is it one or several of the tension release things? Where am I going to practice that? Is this something I do in the morning or at nighttime? How many times over the weekend am I going to commit to practicing this so that it helps me metabolize that stress, move through the stress? So that way I'm not in an argument with my body. My body is not doing me wrong when it's tense. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to. And it is my job, it is your job to begin to quiet and listen for what is the thing you need next? What's going on here? See where that takes you and how it helps you to reset your stress. Thank you, guys. I'll see you next week. Remember, next week we're going to be covering some back stuff, some shoulder stuff. I saw that there was some eye tension stuff, so we're going to change some of the nervous system warm-ups next week and include some eye stuff and some more jaw stuff. So I got you, and I'll see you next week. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, James. It was very helpful for me today as well after a stressful week. So I will metabolize my stress. I have. Now I can let it go and start the weekend. All right. Don't see many questions here, just a couple from the beginning that you already mentioned of things to focus on. Yeah, lots of thank yous. Cool. Exercises for sleeping better. All of these things, I would imagine, can help with sleep.
Yep. Oh, we have my leg shake became a full spine shake today. Great.
Oh, wow.
And that's from someone who was in sessions last time. So they have been practicing this. So you can see that the more you inhabit these things, the more you build up relationships with these, they expand.
Wow.
Great, maybe some exercises for sleeping better. So great, thank you, Claudia, for bringing that up. All of these would make perfect things to do before you go to sleep, but I will have a whole session. We'll do a whole session on like rest rituals, I think would be a good one.
Yeah. Yes, yes.
During the tremor phase, are you supposed to be pressing? No. So once we have a question about the TRE exercise. So you create just as we did with, I want you to think about what we did with the hands and the body to create the contraction, right? It's like I squeeze and then I release. I squeeze and then I release. So for the TRE exercises, I squeeze my feet together, I push them down, I squeeze everything. And then when I get to the tremory phase, the tremor is, I'm not doing the tremor. The tremor is I squeeze everything, and then now I'm choosing to relax everything and just gently bringing it together, and my body will respond with a tremor. Yes, so TRE will definitely make a reappearance. So all of these, how these classes typically run is we introduce some stuff the first few weeks, and then the last few weeks we sort of put it all together, and that's what we spend our time doing is flowing through them. So introducing some education at the top, and then we'll flow through at the end.
Awesome. Great.
Cool. Thank you, everybody.
All right, you guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Tuesday for Move Lab. Thanks, James.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.